great-grandfather started the company in 1967, and we sell and manufacture HVAC equipment, mainly to the assisted living people, the hotels and
college dormitories, apartment complexes. We have a fairly significant commercial side of the business, the belt drives, rooftop units, and then a lot of the components that we manufacture are sold to air conditioning contractors here that use them in home systems, coils and doors and things like that. So the majority of the products that we sell you would think of as going into commercial kinds of things. We're a very basic manufacturer. We start out with copper and steel at one end of the plant and roll out completed units at the other end. And we fabricate most of the parts of the product, except for things like motors and blower wheels and electrical components. We've replaced a good number of the presses the last 3 or 4 years. Our intent in that was to give us a lot more reliable product and also to increase productivity. And part of that was being able to run off coil rather than off blanks. So when we were able to go to the feeders, that allowed us to transfer a lot of the parts to coil run processes, which tremendously helped our productivity as well as, I think, our quality, because we get a lot of very reproducible parts that way. One of the big changes that we've seen is doing that in, for instance, making a cabinet. When we used to blanket, run it on the CNC to punch it and get it ready to be formed, we were getting a cabinet every 6 minutes. Once we were able to go to coil and feed those off the co-feeders, we were getting a cabinet every 6 seconds. So that pretty well has been typified the productivity improvements we've been able to get. The first large press that we bought, a new press that Greg and we put together, and that was to primarily do doors and cabinets. And the first big co-feeder went on that press, and we got that in before the end of 2003. And yes, we did entirely redo the flow of the factory. We moved all of the presses from one section of the building to the other so that we had a little better room and better flow through the process. And then through the years, we continued to either first add feeders to the existing presses where it made sense to do so. So it's been about a 3-year process, but it's gone fairly smoothly. Yeah, we do use quite a few progressive dies in the process, but it's usually a one-punch kind of thing in each station. But I would say that our productivity has increased by at least 50%. As in the case of the cabinets that I quoted before, it's many more times than that. I think two of the best examples of that are we sell a lot of panels. We call them doors, but they're access panels to go with the machine. And essentially every unit that goes out the door goes with the panel. And so some of them are louvered, some of them are plain. We used to build those with blank and shear operations, and set up a third operation in the punch press to punch louvers in them and punch the corner slots and whatever holes that were needed. Now we have set all of those panels up essentially to run off coil. It's significantly changed that process time, the cycle time of a door or a panel, and reduce the number of operations that we have to do. We've already talked about the example of our cabinets, but that's probably the most startling example of how productivity has increased. We've got 20,000 sheet metal parts, so there's a lot of them that we've been able to significantly reduce cycle time for.
Well, it's reduced our lead times quite a bit. We were quoting 10, 12-week lead time to a customer, and your competitors 8 weeks. You've got to find ways to get product out faster. And these co-feeders have helped us tremendously, especially in the setup time. And being able to program the part in one time and running it, and the next time you need to run that part, you just recall that program. It's already set up. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest benefits.
It's allowed us to offset the tremendously rising cost of materials. Steel's gone up, copper's gone up, aluminum has increased in price by a significant amount. And by being able to, one, increase the capacity, And two, being able to increase productivity has allowed us to offset at least part of that increased material cost with some labor improvement savings. And I think our scrap rate's lower too, because we made a lot of changes, both in the way that the plant flows and investment in new presses and feeders. It's hard to say that we can pay back one of these in so many days, weeks, or months, but the payback is certainly there. And I think if we were to sit down and put a pencil and paper to it, it would be within a very reasonable time frame for us. We're producing more units now than we've ever produced before. We spend virtually no overtime. In fact, we've been able to reduce a third shift that we used to run. And at the same time, we've been able to reduce our customer lead time. So, you know, the payback is certainly there in terms of increased productivity and increased capacity. We kind of found a little hidden factory there. Setup times reduced, scrap times reduced, the cycle time of the product is certainly reduced. You know, when you go from 1 every 6 minutes to 1 every 6 seconds, you can save a lot of money that way. I used to refer to that as the hidden factory you have there when you increase productivity without having to invest in additional capital equipment other than the feeders.